Now. Good evening. I'm Dharmendra Gordon, and welcome to all of you and those of you who will be listening to this on YouTube or Facebook later. I'm Dharmendra Gordon, and this is Vegan Synergy Meditation meeting number 26. I invite all of you now to just take a moment and just take a breath and a break and a gap. Allow yourself to mentally step away from whatever you've been doing up to now in your day, and just give yourself some space right now to make a shift inside into a comfortable, open, relaxed, and aware space. The theme of the 15th Life Code this evening we'll be working with is the resonance field. The 15th Life Code is the domain of the human aura and the totality of the human energy field as an experiential field of realization. It spans the entire spectrum of awareness, energy of every single life form that was ever involved and evolved in the direct lineage tree that led to the creation of the human being. The more we are ready to encounter life in all its diversity with a spirit of openness, the more enriched and enlivened our energy field will become. Our aura is like our own personal Akashic records, as everything we are to pass through in this life will be impressed into and become a part of this energy field of ours. The key in this life code is to be open to the whole spectrum of consciousness, from one end to the other, of each and every life lesson we have to learn, as everything we perceive, experience, and manifest on this plane is a lesson. And every lesson once learned is to be passed on in the true spirit of sisterhood, brotherhood, as we make space for the next lesson. The shadow of this life code is homogenization and is responsible for the dumbing down as a whole of humanity. Most of humanity is being subtly programmed through the mass media to life and to live very similar kinds of lives, to want to own very similar kinds of things, and to do very similar kinds of activities, and to eat very similar kinds of food, and have very similar kinds of aspirations, to go after very similar kinds of careers, and to hold very similar kinds of beliefs and ways of believing about what is important. And from the earliest of ages, this kind of behavior is very intensely inculcated into our children's repertoire of modalities for interacting with and engaging life. And all of this conditioning is the number one surefire factor for preventing anybody from showing any signs of life, as everybody is just going about their daily business as the thoroughly well-programmed automaton they have been trained to be. And heaven forbid that anybody shows any sign of going against the grain of this herd-like behavior of humanity, as they will be quickly singled out and made to look the fool by those who revel in gaslighting anybody who makes them feel uncomfortable. Yet it is only when we begin to make a difference and stand out from this dreamy little cloud of sleepwalkers that we break out of this mass hypnosis of unquestioned obedience and subservience to the powers that be in their global domination by manipulating the willfully ignorant agenda. Life moves in a wave from one extreme to the other through cycles that operate on all scales of existence. The proof is in every breath we take, the continuous flow of day into night, the changing of the seasons, the never-ending transformation of our emotions, one into the next, and the same with our thoughts and physical sensations. Life is constantly engaged in this dance of opposites in order to display the full panorama of its possibilities from the most subtle to the most tangible of manifestations. Without this spectrum of transformation, there would be no movement, no growth, no change. Yet at the shadow level of this life code, it is as close to no change as possible. And this is what makes it so easy to control the masses through the various promptings of the mass media, working for the powers that be as the only one and true agent of change in this picture, and only when and where and for the purposes they say. This leads to the present collective energy field of this planet being one of a kind of lifeless dragging on into the inevitable and getting nowhere that everybody is more or less comfortably resigned to and too apathetically bored to do anything about. At the gift level, there's a shift of the center of gravity of one's experience from homogenization to complementation, where instead of everybody minding their own business and only caring about their own and continuing to believe everything their government is telling them, people start to question and begin to stand opposite to a lot of things taking place on this planet that make no sense, waste a lot of resources, and cause untold suffering to so many vulnerable beings. Through the impassioned use of complementation in this way, we for the first time break out of the flatland mental view we've been covertly coerced into adopting without our permission or agreement on any level. And as we begin to see so many of the injustices occurring on this planet that we were blind to before, by now standing in opposition to them, we empower ourselves into the experience of a much greater range of possible outcomes for living our present lives. As we literally step into, own, and act on more of who we are, and by doing so, we become more in truth and in actuality. The possibilities for actualizing our potential increase dramatically as we step into so much more of who we are in the activation of the latent areas of our aura by learning to change our position on so many aspects of life that we were conditioned early on to see in only one way. And as everything we think, say, and do is impressed indelibly into our aura, the gift of complementation that this life code conveys serves to enrich everything about us and everything that is now capable of reaching us. This is the true law of attraction in action as we draw to ourselves more and more of what the life force has to offer both inwardly and outwardly, and find that at the same time we have more to offer, and all we had to do to start this process was to challenge that one little thing that was occurring in our life that just wasn't sitting quite right with us, as we resisted the pull of the willful ignorance that so permeates and rules the herd consciousness field of homogenization at the shadow level of this life code. We learn through this process of complementation to open ourselves up to diversity, to that which expands the boundaries of our experiential capacity to differentiate, absorb, process, metabolize, and integrate, and then radiate out to all who come within the reach of our aura, as more and more find resonance with who we are and the frequencies we are portraying as the law of attraction takes hold and draws ever more the incredible diversity of natures that the life force has to offer into our field of influence and affluence, energetically speaking. As this process continues to unfold, we eventually arrive at the limit of organic life forms and their associated frequencies attuning to our energy field. And as with all siddhas, we literally have the awareness energy potential to cross the threshold between life and death without the necessity of losing the physical form. This is the mystical death and rebirth spoken of in all the wisdom traditions that removes the veil between organic life forms and their inorganic cousins. At the level of the siddha of this life code, there takes place a multidimensional flowering of consciousness, where existence begins to shower the individual with the presence of living intelligences from all directions. As the intrinsic radiance breaks through the barrier of the death frequency and begins to become more aware of and be in communication with the many non-physical beings hailing from the many magical kingdoms they live in that are literally existing in the same space as ours, but at a different frequency. The discovery of the many and varied intelligences we exist among at different frequencies of existence, and the unbelievable enrichment and diversification of our consciousness awareness potential is what the siddha of this life code gives entrance into. Our intrinsic radiance is the presence of pure spirit in our aura that not only gives access to all the 64 siddhas awaiting our full awakening, but is also in communion at all times with all beings, no matter their origin or scale, on every level of existence. The siddha teaches us to dance in harmony with the whole as we learn of the identities of the multitude of beings occupying the spaces of the multiverse alongside us. And make no mistake, that these beings are as much interested in discovering the gifts and secrets of our nature as we are in discovering theirs. And this is where the dance comes in, as we all learn to share and sing each other's tunes, as we dance our way into synchronous co-creation in ways that have existed since time immemorial, as the very sources of the continuous upgrading and refinement of our arts, sciences, and physical culture, for the betterment of our collective existence together on this planet. So, it's time to step into the shadow. Hi, Nancy. Glad you could make it.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
That's
On my
okay.
computer getting carried away into the depths of digital land.
Cool. Well, I just finished the reading, and I'm going to start as usual, getting us going into the shadow. And the shadow of this life code has a lot to do with kind of that experience that I pick up so much in the collective and learned unconsciously to kind of adopt as a safe sort of way of being in this world, which I think on some level we all did to a greater or lesser degree, of just kind of being about as dead as possible and dull and just without any kind of, you know, life juice or anything. And that somehow that's pretty much how everybody, you know, is in this world. So as a result of that, my shadow is that and I'm going to get real honest here and say that I think my shadow that is my biggest escape into dullness is the kind of work I've been sort of depending on for my livelihood for, God, coming up on 11 years. That is, although it's dependable and consistent and whatever, it's basically in an environment with people like the people I was just describing. Even though they're younger and they don't even realize they're doing it, they're all homogenized into similar ways of seeing things. Let's go out and eat lunch at Jack in the Box. Oh my God, for a vegan, that's like holy cow. And so this is the energy field, you know, I'm in, and very uninspiring, very making kind of give it almost like gives me the sense that there's no hope and no way out, and how am I ever going to crawl my way out of this one? I live in Arizona in the desert where, heaven forbid, nobody wants to live here anyway. And there's really not a whole lot of people around, or very few that, like you, my present company, that I can relate with. So it's really a very interesting and almost box energetically, like I'm in a permanent cave with myself, and there's really no one to reach out to. And so on that note, I have to bust myself and say that I'm supporting this homogenization on this planet by continuing to do. And I'll save, obviously I'm going to get into other stuff in my gift and shadow, but I really want to just share that, you know, and the goal of all of this is that we all become whole and can share like I'm doing right now, and also still have, you know, sometimes you know, an after night snack with angels. I mean, why not? Why not be able to stretch in and go, look, I'm a real big flop right now in the way I earn a living, but that doesn't stop me from sharing beautiful things. But so just to be clear, there is no right or wrong. Um, there's no judgment here, and I want to demonstrate that and be a role model for that. That yes, I can do incredible and really shift frequencies and upscale energies and things like that. But it doesn't stop me from being human and also having places in myself that, well, I guess you could say were put on the back burner, because my number one priority in life was to wake up, figure out who I am and where I am. And then the final question, which I am now coming up against, like I was sharing before the meeting started with Evan, what am I doing here? So Yes, and this is definitely one of the loveliest things I do here is this very meeting. So that's it. I'm just going to really open it up and just say, please, you'll get the most benefit out of this meeting, especially in the shadow, if you just drop anything and just really get into exposing whatever it is. And the beauty of it is when you also expose something to awareness that's kind of like heavy, dark, negative, slow, plodding, unchanging, stuck, like I just did, it can tend to help it dissolve. Because awareness, the beautiful thing about awareness is things that are good, that are of benefit to many beings, tends to grow, and things that are self-destructive can, for the most part, tend to dissolve. So I just welcome anybody to really get honest and real. And one thing I'll also say is that I don't know if you noticed is when I'm expressing this, I put out a very genuine emotional charge so everybody can feel it, but I don't get lost in it. I don't indulge in it, and I don't feel sorry for myself. I just feel what it feels like to be in the shadow, and I just kind of emanate that in the space with clarity, but with full feeling. So it's kind of a real trick at the shadow level to try and really get into the feeling, but don't get lost and identified and start going into the feeling. Be the witness to the feeling so that the fullness of the feeling can come out. It's so much more. You'll get so much more benefit out of it if you can stay in the witness and not get identified in, like, if it's a sad thing to start ball. I mean, if there's no there's if it overflows and you have to release a little, it's fine, but you'll get the greatest benefit if you can just feel it totally and stay in the witness with it, but really feel it. So that's my shadow. Whoever would like to go next, please go. And this is in relation, remember, to homogenization, being like the herd, being the same as everybody, dull, dead, boring, drab, dreary, draconian drama that just keeps dragging on. Basically.
I guess I can go first. It seems like a very poignant, or it seems it is describing the world as it is in my mind, and my own personal rejection of it and judgment of it, hatred of it almost, of having to be in this dull existence with people that don't seem to want to leave it, thinking it's going to change, but it doesn't. And for me, I would just escape into my work. I would escape into my creativity and not want to participate with anyone, with a growing resentment against them for letting what is happening to the world happen. And then at different times trying to stop the insanity, usually protecting a forest or something like that, and getting met with more of it. And it's even worse because you're trying to do something you feel is good and you're getting no support. And like an old growth forest is freaking cut down 30 minutes from fucking Vancouver, and not more than 30 people can show up. And over and over again seeing shit like this and thinking that people are either brain dead or, and just the grief, the anger, the frustration. And I would just apply effort into my work, and at certain time, and I would just basically just write everybody off except for the few people I spoke to, and never open my heart to them. And to me, it's there's a lack of curiosity. There's such a lack, and it's gotten worse. It get worse. Like there's a side that just anger comes out like that. It is not good at all. But, so I mean, this shadow, and I do want to move to the gifts because I know that there's so much goodness that comes from connecting with people and a heart-based joy, and loving and I'm starting to experience it in my own world. And my own world is changing. And so that's enough.
Wow, that was really well done. The biggest thing I saw, right, I guess at the end when you came out around the curve from the release of the frustration, is the thing about no curiosity anymore either. That just keeps everybody so dumbed down. I mean, that curiosity is what grows and attracts. And as kids, it helps our attention to, and attention is what grows our essence, what's real in us. It's the watering, the food of essence of our real. So that it's sad that curiosity has just made us, because we've been trained to be so dull and dead, and dullness is another, it's the Gene Keys word for this shadow. But I like homogenization because it's what makes all of that happen. Okay, beautiful. Thank you, Elijah. Who is next? Who would like to share next? And just so you guys know, if you're not muting, because there's background noises here and there, if you're not muting yourself when you're not speaking, I'm coming around and doing it. So, because I want everybody else to be on silent while each person is speaking, so there's no background. So, anyway, I'm going on mute now.
I'll go. I really resonated with what you were saying, Elijah. Thank you. I'm really struggling today. This week has just been I don't even know where to start. I'm definitely feeling the emotion today, as you can see. We had a Black Lives Matter protest in Sydney on Tuesday. And I went to that because I wanted to observe, to witness, to listen, to learn, to try and understand what is going on, to try and understand what it's like for, our brothers and sisters and non-binary people of color family around the world. I come from Africa. I was born and raised in Africa, so I've experienced my own racism, and I've seen it so much growing up, and it's been such a big part of my existence. I know a lot of the world has just been oblivious to it and is still refusing to listen, to look, to try and understand. But that's not to say that I fully understand it or I fully get it. It's just that I've been trying my whole life to try and wake people up to this, and obviously animal rights, and just I'm seeing some people who are doing the work, but then I'm seeing other people who are attempting to do the work, but then seem to align with people who I thought I aligned with certain people or groups, and then seeing that they are aligned with others who just don't seem to be just absolutely not on the same wavelength as I am. So I'm just a bit confused in that way. And I guess my activist self, my solar plexus is really firing at the moment. My activism really wants to come out and rah, really pissed off, but it's hard to, I guess I'm oscillating between this activist self that I haven't really felt much power behind for a long time. I've really been focusing on my energy, my light body, doing the spiritual work for the last few months. And now I guess I feel like it's a more dense aspect wanting to come out, and I want that. Like I want to be fully supercharged to be able to go and make a difference and to be out there. But I'm kind of, yeah, oscillating between seeing things from one perspective, seeing things from another perspective, trying to understand my truth, trying to understand the objective truth. But it's just, yeah, it's really difficult. And feeling this homogenization, I guess, on just so many different fronts, so many different groups just seem to just want to just take somebody's word for something and not listen, and or not think for themselves. And yeah, I feel same as your lady. You were saying, you know, you just want to kind of write everybody off apart from a couple of people. It's like, who, and I know a lot of the anger and frustration that I'm feeling is not only, it's not my own. I'm picking up a lot of the vibes of the world and the people around. But the energy that is mine, the emotions that are mine, I own that, and I want to transmute all of it, and be able to lead and to guide. I'm going to a gathering of people this afternoon over the long weekend, with friends, some of whom are vegan, some of whom are not, some of whom are very kind of spiritually aligned and want to do the work, and it's just going to be a very diverse group, I think, and I want to be able to bring my gift, and my to be able to fully embody my higher self as much as I possibly can, and bring some of my personal messages anyway, and just meet with people who are on the same page as me, hopefully. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. That was this feels like a really because another aspect, borrowing again, well, this time from human design, another word for this gene key is extremes. And I think we've all been experiencing quite some extremes. The world has definitely been experiencing way out there extremes this last week. And a lot of what you're sharing, Lucy, reminds me of my own path over many years, where there are so many friends that go by the wayside, because in the end there's very few people who really want to hang in there with the spirit of the truth and love the work because of the spirit of the truth, which is the essence of the essence of the essence of the essence of the work, is the spirit of truth. And that is a hard one, because you have to be willing. I mean, I loved what I heard Adyashanti say a couple years back. He said, enlightenment isn't this like fancy space where you're hanging out with angels all the time, and it's like being deep down in the dirty and hanging with it, and being present and totally open without any barriers. That's the highest art, is to be able to ultimately, and I'm not saying anybody's there yet or they need to be, but to be embracing the totality of man, of every single aspect of us, and learning the right relationship. It doesn't mean that the darkest places of us, we don't act those out, but we do embrace them, because there's tons of power locked in those places that we can embrace and hold with our awareness and our love, and heat it up so that it becomes part of our gift matrix, instead of what feeds the shadow matrix and causes wars, and the animal holocaust that's going on through the animal egg, et cetera, all the violent things. It's just, Lucy, there was too many points you covered there about, the trials and travails of, the friends you meet, and then also say goodbye to along your path of awakening, because there are going to be very few people in the end that want to go the whole distance. when it comes to, the spirit of truth and loving this truth for its own sake. That's the work for the work's sake. The rest is how you share that with others and how you face it in yourself. That's the whole work right there, in a very simple way. Face the truth in yourself, be truthful with others, and then just live that spirit of truth and love it with your whole being. And eventually the universe will start to share its truth with you directly through so many different incredible ways. So thank you, Lucy. I'm going to go on mute for whoever would like to, who hasn't opened up their shadow.
Hello, all. I'm not going to put my video on, or did someone else want to go? Okay. This is Aurora, Denise Aurora. And yes, I relate with what everyone's saying. I've had all those experiences as well. And what came up for me in that was a dullness that I felt deeply in my body, and it kind of turned into kind of like a death within, or numbness, blocks, not able to engage with my life of my voice or my body or my heart or my creation. And again, as you guys have already heard it, I would say that is part of what has created the ailments in my body of blocked energy in my spine and things like that. So I know the dullness very well, or the even blocked energy of, I was even fearful, I think, of speaking my voice out to people, because I didn't know how to, for one, to say it in a way that could potentially resonate with them or come from my heart, because my heart was blocked. So I just remained in this dull, homogenous space in a lot of groups, and more hidden, and then would find the one or two particular people that I could speak with, and then move on to the next group. So I've been like a group hopper, like a nomad, going from group to group to group to test them out. So I have been in places like you, Dharmendra, but I could not stay there for long. I was going cross-eyed with boredom and inhaling dust and discomfort. And so I know I've been there, and it felt like a long time, but I had to move on and go on explorations, to see how I could awaken and take more experience in from the diverse groups, and uh, rid of this dullness with more information of how to come more alive. Because I think even though each group might be homogenous or have their own idea of what their identity is, it's group identity, and in group identity there isn't a lot of diversity, and it doesn't really allow for it because it has one idea of what the model of that group lives by. And then when people grow out of it, they don't necessarily leave, and then they get stuck in that space. And so that goes for all systems, including the internal system. So I've been working on the dull numbness and blockages within myself, and I grew up kind of speaking monotone, but really when I'm spirited, I'm all over the place. I'm like, and or like that's where song comes in versus the language of the monotone da 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 da, which is kind of a non vibrating way of communicating. And I think that's what the English language and language in a sense does, of relaying a logical experience. It's a communication of a logic rather than an experience of joy. But that's what we'll be going into magnetism and fluorescence or resonance about. And I look forward to the gifts and illumination cities of those, because I've been exploring that and it's amazing. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. What I liked about what you just did is what you started out by naming it, the dullness. And what I look for at each stage is that each person kind of really gets into the energy, and so we can all feel it. And I really got the sense of what your experience to encounter dullness was like. So thank you. That's what we're looking for here, is that it's conveyed in what you're saying, that dullness, which is caused by homogenization, not wanting to stand out and be different and unique and genius and unusual, but just, like everybody else, because that's the common consensus view of things. Let's not stick out. So that was well done. If I just want to call that out, so everybody, it's noted in their essence, their being, in whatever place it needs to be, that was a really good example of what dullness feels like. It was conveyed very well, and that's the point. That is the point of this particular stage. Okay, and thank you, Denise.
Yeah, I can go next. So I think I related a lot to what Lucy said, because I'm very involved in that scene as well, and especially lately, with all of the crazy police brutality going on and just the sheer amount of disrespect that our protesters are experiencing right now is just insane. So I personally, when I was hearing, Dharmendra and, a lot of us talking about dullness, I was thinking, and I was like, and as crazy as this sounds, I was like, I don't know if I've ever experienced something like that. I think I've been lucky enough to not experience a dullness. And then I kept thinking, and I was like, I think I'm so often in a state of the exact opposite of that. Like I feel so intensely all the time. And I think that is because of the dullness that I see in the world around me. And so, yeah, I think that's a lot myself in with dullness, is because I speak about these things so passionately, and I feel about these things so passionately, and I found myself saying a lot these past couple days, like, I just want everything to be okay. Like, I just want everybody to be okay. And like, I want that so badly in my heart. And like, it's I think baffling to me to see other people not want that, and to see other people just be so dull that they don't even think about that. And because they experience one thing in their lives, they can't understand, and they don't wish to understand what somebody else feels like. And so they can't even fathom the consequences of what somebody else's life would be like, because they're a different type of person. And I think that's really dead. That's really dull. Like, just not wanting to understand what other people are feeling. And that's crazy to me, because when you're so alive and so passionate in that sense of the word, and you see other people so dull and so dead in that sense of the word, it's like an alive person right now, just physically in the sense of alive, breathing, can't imagine what it's like to be dead, right? None of us can say with a definite answer what it's like when we're going to be dead. We don't know. We can't even imagine what it's going to be like. I feel that same way when I look at other people and they're just displaying this ridiculous amount of apathy to what their fellow human beings are experiencing. And that dullness, I don't understand that. And I'm thinking, and I'm like, a dull pencil never gets shit done. Like when you're dull, like nothing's going to happen. You're not going to be able to make change because you're not alive. You're not doing anything. It's really crazy. It's really crazy to me to see the amount of dullness that goes on in this world. And I don't understand it, because I think that dullness is related a lot to hatred. People that are dull and don't want to understand what other people are going through are the people that hate those other people the most.
Adriana, you're talking a lot about other people. Shadow is always about your own space and what is touching you from either the collective. It's not a critique. The shadow is not a critique of others. It is you getting honest about. And I will tell you something that I've noticed since you've started these meetings, that comes out in your voice. It's like there's always this sadness that's ready to come out all the time. It feels like you're almost ready to cry all the time. And I want to share this with you because I know everybody else sees it. And I want you, and I'm saying it as in a loving way to help you to start to become aware of there is a shadow in you. And dullness is one side of this. The other side is freneticism, being frenetic. And that is what, and I want to give you a mirror of this to help you, because you're young and you haven't had to go through a lot of the crap the rest of us have. And when you give, a lot of what you're saying, I think to myself, give you 20 years, you'll have plenty of this to talk about. Right now you don't, and I wouldn't expect you wouldn't. Good for you. You're young, you're still alive, you got a lot of juice. But the thing about a reaction to dullness, you can either be like, you can either get, fold in and just go into that deep, like you call it apathy or whatever, or you can react to it, and that's still shadow, and that's frenetic. It's like, and that's the energy. And so you're still getting the shadow very well, but I invite you to come and tell us more about you instead of your opinion of the world, because you're still very young yet. There's so much you need to learn. And even though you're very wise and you've obviously learned a lot of things, what is it you authentically have in relation in the range between dullness and frenetic? Where is your preferred shadow space in there? Because it seems to me that's what I'm getting from what you're saying, not so much your idea or your opinion of what's happening in the world. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah,
focusing.
because I just wanted to help you come back to you, so we get you, because I want to know you. We all know what the world's doing, but what about you? And you can say about the world, but how is that affecting you? How does that touch you? Where in you do you want to go, wait a minute, I've either got to react and get intense, or I'm going to just go so dull and numb that I don't have to feel that because it's too intense? I mean, between those two, where are you?
I think definitely I'm on the, how do you say it?
Frenetic.
Yeah, I think it's definitely that, because it's just like, it's really overwhelming, like I open my phone and I have like 10 emails from 10 different organizations telling me about, the next Black person that died, and I don't feel it like Black people do, but I feel it. And it's really hard to try to absorb all of everything that's been going on. And like I said, like I think I feel it a lot, and that's like, I don't know if that's good or if I should try finding a balance, but I feel like that balance would have to involve some sort of disassociation, and I don't want to disassociate, because I think once you start to disassociate, it leads down to the path of dullness, and I don't want to become dull, but at the same time, I don't want to always be, like you said, on the verge of crying, because I feel like that a lot, because it's just because mass media is so good at hitting the masses. Like it's so much information coming at you all at once, that and it's so much sad information usually. Like you hear a lot of people say, I don't watch the news, it's too sad. And I'm one of those people. I can't watch the news. I've tried watching the news now recently to watch the protests, and I wasn't able to watch it for more than 2 minutes, because it's like all of this information, and it's just like you don't know how to process all of it, because I want to fix it, and I can't. And so yeah.
Good. There, you hit it. You nailed it. Right at the end there, I felt it. Good. Yeah, that's what happens to your heart when you realize all that energy. It's literally like a steel encasement or a concrete wall that goes around your heart, and it's a protection because it is too much. And just again, I can't help it because you're such a brilliant young lady, but I wouldn't be in such a hurry to grow up and get it all, because soon you're going to be all grown up and you're going to go, shit, I missed my childhood and I could have had some fun before I got there. I mean, and the thing is, it's not about dissociating, and I agree with you. You don't want to dissociate. You don't want to become a disembodied, non-feeling, like so many people who get lost in their heads, but you want to learn, and this is a gift. You want to learn to detach. And by detach, I mean disidentify with the content of your experience, so that you realize the fact that you're experiencing it means it's not you. You are getting too identified with what you're experiencing and making it be you, instead of being the field of your experience that you can witness. The word witness allows you to detach, still be in touch with it, but not identified. And by identified means you're not the same as it, because you aren't the same as it. You're the one that watches it all. So I'll just share that, and I'd like to move on to the next person. But just a little thing about a difference between, because it's also not good to be too sympathetic with everything, too mixed up in everything. You have to learn to detach, and that's a good thing. Detachment is a very good thing, because it means you're not attached to what you're experiencing. And in the end, you're not going to be able to take any of it with you anyway. So why would you want to be attached to it now anyway? You want to be engaged, you want to do the right things, you want to take positive steps. But you don't want to be attached to whether it's, I mean, ultimately, and that's a pretty high skill for anybody, but you don't want to be attached to the outcome. You just want to be present and do the best you can. So I don't know, I hope because, I mean, I'm only saying to you what I wish somebody would have said to me at your age, because I was as vulnerable and as intelligent as you. And I just, as a boy, I had to kind of just keep it all inside and have a madhouse in my head instead of being able to express it so easily, emotionally. But anyway, thank you, Adriana.
Yeah.
Whoever would like to go next.
I'll share next. Yeah, I would say the dullness is always something that I've feared for myself and for the people around me in my life. I always associated dullness with leading a simple life, with the shutters closed and not being open to the world. I definitely associate it with being kind of uninterested in the world outside of my life. But now I've kind of come to know a different type of dullness, and I notice it in times like these, where turning on the TV gets my heart racing, and it increases my temperature and all these things, because I notice when I allow myself to indulge in outrage, that I end up dulling some part of my senses that it doesn't allow me to appreciate the really small things around me, and like the very simple things around me. And yeah, that's like, I guess that's how I'm thinking about dullness in this situation, because I also know that there are times, I think the dullness that I fear the most is that I close myself off from the world outside, and then I still lose that sensitivity to the world around me, to the touch of my blanket and the colors and the light and all the things that are really marvelous. There's times when I catch myself kind of in a stupor and feeling sorry for myself, and then I realize that there's so much to be grateful for. I fear both ends of the, I guess, this spectrum. You were saying about the extremes, and I feel like it's the issue I feel is almost like I don't know. It's like if the ability to open your heart is a valve, I'm not very good at opening it enough, or sometimes when it's opening and receiving a lot, I'm fighting it. And I know in times like these, when I turn on the TV and see just all the most like miserable emotions that we all wish none of us had to feel, when I see those on TV bouncing around, yeah, it's hard, because it's like my heart, it's like I'm fighting my heart breaking, and it hurts, but then somehow, like, in the fighting of my heart breaking, I can sometimes lose connection with the really subtle, sweet world around me, that is there. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Evan. That just made me and reminded me that the clearer we're getting, because as everybody adds their piece, it just gets more and more crystal clear what the shadow is all about. And it's basically just a lead weight on the heart. I mean, it's just that's what it is. That's what this shadow is about. The opposite of, burning your candle on both ends and experiencing all of life, and just like a Zorba, just taking it and absorbing it. It's literally just anything but that. So it's just, yeah. Nancy, since everybody else has shared, I will specifically ask if you feel to offer anything at this point. And as you know, you may or may not, and that's fine either way. If you're talking, you're on mute.
Hi, sorry. I'm trying to launch this plant-powered meat month, and it's been an enormous amount of work, and I've had to keep making changes, and it's kind of taken up a lot of my time, and so I'm feeling distracted, but I'm listening to what everybody's saying and starting to feel like, oh, that's what you mean by the shadow. And I really loved what you said to, I guess it was Adriana, I don't remember, who, she was just, her heart was breaking so much. And I was thinking, how difficult it must be to be young in the world today, because we know we face such existential threats, and there's part of me too that I get really scared, and it's almost more like President Trump, because I know it's not just him. There's a whole magnitude of force that that is propelling him on. He's not alone in his insanity. And recently when he did that famous photo op by the church, there were peaceful protesters. I don't know if you've all heard this. They tear gassed them and shot rubber bullets at them to get them out of the way. so Trump could stand there holding the back end of a Bible. We just assumed that's what it was. And with this like nasty look on it, he looked so evil and so unhappy. And, there were a lot of jokes slang around it too, but that, for some reason, that just like epitomized to me what's happening. And it's very easy to, in one hand, say, oh, it's, Trump is this and Trump is that. And then, hearing all these awful things about Biden too. And it feels like things are really starting to spin out of control. And I incorporated into my website and into my email that I'm trying to get out about Black Lives Matter. And I think white people really don't understand that. And I can't, I empathize, but I can honestly say I can't know what it's like, And then so I'm trying to incorporate that, and I always feel kind of helpless, like, what can I do, And then I reminded, like, I did some meditation yesterday. I didn't today, and coming to these meetings and then hearing what you said, about detaching and not letting. And I'll be the first one to say, don't let the violence define us. Don't let the violence win, and rob us of who we really are as beings of love and light. But it's also very empathetic beings who really care very deeply about each other and about this world. It's very hard to not get upset or scared or, so that's what kind of I'm feeling, like a little, like I'm bouncing around a little bit inside, and a part of me, I just want to like scream, Sometimes I joke and I say, I've had a good day if I didn't tell everyone that I see or know who eats animals to just fuck off. Like, that's a good day. And I try to actually be really nice and tactful. And there was this one post on Facebook not too long ago where someone said, what do you want on your tombstone? And I said, what I want to say on my tombstone, which I don't want one anyway, I don't want to be buried. When we're done, get out of the house. Don't leave your luggage there. I think graveyards are just such a big waste of space, but that's beside the point. You are no longer invited to the party. Go home. Take your bags and pack and get out of here. So, what was I going to say? Oh, my tombstone. I want to say, to everyone who's still eating animals, fuck off. I had to be nice to you when I was alive, and now I don't. I have to laugh about it. Thank you for laughing.
That was good to end to the good end to the shadow. Good riddance to the shadow. A nice little laugh could shift us into the gift. Thank you, Nancy.
Okay,
that was really funny. I like.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
I don't know where you pulled that one from. That was really good. Anyway.
But
I think whether you're vegan or not, when you leave this world, you should probably just say fuck off anyway. But never mind, that's just me. Anyway, and don't worry, Adriana, you'll get there. You'll feel just like that at some point. I guarantee it.
Well, the thing is, as you get older, you go through things and you realize I can get through this. You get the heartbreaks, you go through the dramas and the traumas, and then you come out on the other end and you realize, okay, I can get through this. But it's still, right now, it's still a very strange time. I think it would be very, very hard to be really young right now, because we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we don't know for sure.
Let's stay on target. That's
okay.
fine.
Sorry.
I don't want to get too far off on. Remember, we have a purpose for each segment, and you can go a little bit off, but if we start going too much into narrative, then we lose the focus.
Okay.
Thank you, Nancy.
All right,
I mean, I love you. I could listen to you, but it would have to be a different context to really get more into that. So now we shift into complementation. So for me to tap into that magnetic, charismatic, dance of the opposites. It's like, the last 20 years of my life has definitely been very challenging. But it's funny because the 20 years before that, from the ages of 20 to 40, I couldn't stop for more than a half a second anywhere before I had to move to the next thing. And it didn't mean I couldn't sit for hours and meditate. I could, but the way I lived my life was pure mutation, which is my purpose in the so-called gene keys. The first gate, the very first gate of all, the very first gene key, the very first life code, which is at the gift level is freshness. So for me, the quest to never have a dull moment. There was a period in my life where people knew me as, and I would walk up to people and introduce myself as, hi, I'm a walking good time, glad to meet you. And so it's interesting that when I just went into and opened up this life code, and I went into the gift part, and I saw this thing about standing opposite to the position that you were conditioned to identify with in your upbringing that was designed to keep you as homogenized as possible. And for me, that is kind of almost the opposite of what most people are doing, because they're also homogenized at a certain point in their older age. They break out of it and really, but for me, that was my youth. And my last 20 years was all about being stable, and all about grounding, and all about holding down and holding a position and maintaining that stability. So in a strange way, the way I discovered the magnetic, and now I'm much more capable of attracting things as a result of that than I would have ever been had I kept moving all the time in my life, because I would never stay long enough anywhere to allow anybody to even know I was there, except the places I went to, like India, where I got famous and was a teacher of martial arts and did all these other things, blah, blah, blah. But and that was just because I did it a lot and I went there a lot. So a lot of people, trained with me. So, but I was never really, making it so people could actually create some kind of real connection with me. So out of this phase, and I know I'm moving now into my next phase, but out of this phase of so much stillness and grounding and non-movement, it really helped me to see what standing opposite was, and how to complement that part, that wild and crazy aspect of my nature, with an aspect of my nature that could hang in a situation. And it took me a while. It took me several years before I could actually just go, look, I'm just going to be here, and I don't really care what it is I do. I'll use that to spur my growth in ways that most people wouldn't think is a way to grow, to be in a space that's not really changing, and to see if I can still stay in touch with my light. Am I really a person who went through a mystical death and rebirth? If it's true, then no matter what I do, even if it's being stuck for a long time, it's not going to change my inner blissfulness. And I'm happy to report it didn't. But there are other aspects of me closer to the surface that I want to now nourish more and attract more and magnetize more. So winding through this story, it's like I'm now going to come back into and sort of blend my stability with that earlier period of my life where I was just in mutation, constant mutation. And now that's going to hit this place and blend with this place of constant stability. So that's kind of now being able to take both of those and take a look at the stability and take a look at the mutation, and now see that truly, in order to be truly stable, you have to come from a base of mutation. This is a deep secret that I learned by spinning. They talk about it, some of the masters in Tai Chi and stuff, that in the depths of motion is stillness, and in the depths of stillness is motion. So what I would say in this case through the gift is, in the depths of mutation is stability, and in the depths of stability is mutation. So because when you're constantly faced with stability, there's always, what that does is, from that still center, it allows everything around you to change. And when you're constantly in a state of mutation, it allows everything around you to find its position, its place. And that even to me comes across as a bit mystical, and it's going to take me some time to absorb what I just said also, because it's a new place for me, because I really want to give everybody the flavor that when you step out of your shadow, you actually have to step into a brand new place. So what I'm trying to convey here is that the magnetism I'm talking about, I could have sure described magnetism from my understanding of magnetism and all those things, but I really just wanted to enter into it, use my life experience and say, well, how am I actually drawing things to me now that I wasn't capable of drawing before? It's because I have an inner stability that allows the outer change to find its place with me and allow it to change, but at the same time be stable in its connection with me. So that's my way of kind of stepping into a new space and allowing the freshness of this moment to kind of come in and to kind of really stay oriented on that freshness and allow it to move me and allow me to be vulnerable enough to move with it, so I can feel what I'm drawing toward myself and what I'm drawn to, and so it's like I'm being drawn to new things, and to new. I'm being motivated in new ways, and at the same time, I'm drawing toward myself all kinds of new people, and it's lovely to experience that. And yeah, so in this moment, I'm feeling a kind of lightness, and so that's the key. That the gift for me is ringing true. So I will be silent and allow the next person to step into the unknown and let the gift take them.
Hi, Darby. I'll share. So I didn't get to share my shadow, but I think that for me, right now, I'm having a hard time going into any gift. I'm feeling very down about myself, very hard on myself. I'm having a really fucking time getting older, and what my body can and can't do anymore, and can and can't tolerate anymore. So I think if I'm going to look for a gift and feel a gift in this time, it's that I am still alive, that I am still breathing. As hard as it is sometimes, that I find I'm still here. I'm still waking up every morning, still thankful that I have the morning to wake up to. I find it much harder for me to get through a day with a smile on my face. But I'm here, and I'm, you know, and that's the gift that I have, that I'm given, another day. Because sometimes that's all you got, is just another day. Thank you.
Wow, that's powerful. And I still say that it is still relevant to the gift frequency, because in the very most basic sense of magnetism, the life force is still being attracted to you. And like you say, you're still alive, you're still breathing. So, and the magnetics of the in-breath and the out-breath are still functioning. So that in itself is a gift. We don't even think about the magnetics and the complementation of the in-breath and the out-breath. That is the gift of our life. So hidden in what you said is a very beautiful, and I'll just bring it out because that's a very, and we all, you know, we can see that however we want, but that's such a gift to be given that magnetic ability to shift from the in-breath pole to the out-breath pole, and to allow an experience of life to happen as a result of that process. So thank you.
I guess I could go. To me, this definitely would be part of the gift in terms of sharing, and one, hearing the shadow and feeling connected because we're going through the same thing as human beings, but also perhaps as maybe sensitive human beings or people that seem to be, I don't know, the caring side of this for the whole species kind of thing. You know, there's multiple generations here, which is nice. And I find that today, like my thing is, again, creativity. This is like tetrahedron within a tetrahedron within a tetrahedron. And I tell you, I'm super psyched about that tetrahedron thing. I just love that. And it's so simple. I've never seen anything like it. And it's actually a structure for the mind, that I'm playing with concepts and things that you can organize things in your mind on the structure. And then we could share it as a group, and then it becomes a reference point to reorganize how you perceive things. And I know Dharmendra's got the gene keys and other things that connect in, and I'm sure each one of you has something amazing that taps in. And so to me, I was at this party, and I was definitely on some LSD, and I was being shown something. And I was going between this individual old guy who's kind of like, you know, just basically in this gene key at the shadow side. And then it would switch into this dynamic team synergy dance field that was phenomenal. Like the polarity was so strong between me as this guy who's just getting old and can't even do anything anymore, into this Superman connected to other super people in this, you know, dynamic super team. And, you know, definitely I like sort of high impact energy events. But, you know, some people are not alive anymore. But I seem to get in there. And I just know that feeling of collaboration, like Dharmendra and I just had a session yesterday, is mind-blowing. You know, it's when you come across other people that are very psyched about their work and they're out of the dullness and into their gifts, it is phenomenal, you know, kind of connections we can have with other human beings. And especially these days where we're hungry for it. I feel like when I was younger, I couldn't communicate at all. And now I kind of communicate with anything, really, if I put my mind to it. And I do have a hope for the species. I do hope, like the type of information that Dharmendra's got here. This is like space age, amazing, you know, species transforming stuff we're doing here. Just this, and you know, there's thousands, there's hundreds of thousands of us out there. That all we have to do is come together on teams and organize together and share like this, and we're going to break through. We're going to bust through that collective trap that we're in energetically because we feel so alone. And I feel that as we, in a place like this was impossible when I was growing up. This was impossible 10 years ago. This just became possible, and it's free, that we can connect in here from around the whole planet with each other and actually having a great experience at the gift of our facilitator here, who's facilitating higher, you know, consciousness. So that to me is, the gift is worth it. Like sometimes I think when you get your gift, the shadow is worth it. When you fully realize the gift, because you know you don't have to go back there anymore, but you had to get through that to get to here. And now you're here, present moment now. And I think the synergy of our energy can really lift us all up out of whatever is our darkness as we share this gift. So I'm very, I like this process a lot. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Elijah. That was some really, really beautiful stuff you were sharing there. Yeah, I think I'm just going to let that be. I don't think there's really anything that could be improved upon that. Who would like to go next?
I would like to share. Yeah, I definitely, I was looking forward to this gift going into this, because there's something about the dullness is like, it's like unsettling too. And so for me, with the word magnetism and my conception of dullness, what I see this gift being for me is kind of like, if I were to be riding a bike, in my mind, it's not what is going to allow me to ride on this bike is by striking this perfect balance between leaning left and leaning right. But if I try to intellectualize that too much, I'm not going to be able to do it. If I just say, oh, a little bit more to the left, a little bit more to the right, it has to be one of those things where I kind of step into it. And similar to the gift, I know that's a challenge for me, is to just step into it. And I feel like with the dullness, for me, I can feel dullness when exposed to one extreme, but I can also feel dullness when exposed to another extreme. And when I stop trying to figure out which end of this dipole, this little magnet I'm supposed to be on, and I just let this field sort of flow, and then I realize that it kind of revitalizes all those parts of my life that were dull when I stopped trying to hold on to hold on to those things that energize me. I don't know, and just rather letting the energy flow through life and flow through the interactions and the exchanges. And that might be letting things flow out of me or letting things flow to me. But there's like a lot of letting go that's involved in that, to just let things flow. That's all.
Very nice point there, Evan, about balance. The gift is about balance. The shadow is about imbalance. And although what I talked about, standing opposite and complementation, in the yin-yanginess, the plus minus of the universe, there's also, as you become able to balance, the better you get at balancing extremes, the better you better be at holding your center and being strong in your center and keeping the balance. So that's the other aspect that gets to come into play now with the gift. You get more aspectedness, more dimensionality to the quality, whereas in the shadow it's either one thing or the other, and you're kind of screwed either way. And there is something else I wanted to mention based on what Elijah was saying about going through the shadow. And when you get to the siddha, something releases that wasn't there in the shadow, where it becomes your healed animal aspect, because there's an animal aspect to all 64 of these too. And so the beauty is that instead of having a shadow anymore at all, there's no negative anymore. So it's true what Elijah said, you're done with it. But what happens is a power is released, and that power becomes a much fuller expression of what once was a shadow is now a natural, because eventually all the animal aspects, because we go into the animal configuration at night when we dream, we literally have the number of gene keys that mammals do when we dream at night. So that part of us is gonna, when we evolve, that's gonna become a permanent part of us, and it's some of the more fundamental siddha work to when we integrate the powers and the grace and the synchronicity and all the things we see in nature that blow us away, like the organization of bees and what they do, and the way birds fly together, or fish fly together, or the way a tiger moves. I mean, all those are going to all be we're going to have those qualities too, but even in a much more multi-dimensional way. And in fact, at the deeper level of the siddhas, you can actually get into those energy modalities and literally experientially feel the movement through your space, even without getting up out of your chair. You literally, and it's way better than any drug, believe me, it's way better than acid or anything else. That's what, and sometimes I hope that some of you start tapping into that, because the siddha can start, and when it goes deeper, and eventually I hope to take and do some deeper groups than this one. This is really fundamental at a profound level, but fundamental at a profound level, to where we can do what's called macro dimensional voyaging, and we can actually do what I'm talking about, where so many of the aspects of our shadows have been healed, and now we have access to pure essential animal essence, which is something altogether different. It's kind of like what's hinted at in the totems of the American Indians and stuff, and what they can tap into in the Incas and the Mayans, and what they did with their totems, and why they did it that way, and why they were so good at, their physical prowess was, sometimes legendary. And just to kind of open it, and we're still at the gift because I'm just explaining, I'm not really jumping into it yet, but I'm opening a space and kind of creating a creative palette of what's possible. And we're definitely going to, as we get into the sitta tonight, we're definitely going to tap into that energy, because that's what was, if you guys remember when I did the reading at the beginning, it's about tapping into the multidimensionality of our universal presence. But we'll get there. So I just, based on what Elijah and Evan were saying, thank you both.
Hello, I'd like to go. This is Aurora. And I'm assuming you guys can hear me. Yes, okay. So magnetism, I love magnetism. I love feeling magnetic. When I was a kid, I had this feeling that I called feeling like a rock. And then it would turn into a wave and then a dot, and I would hear a ringing sound. I later learned in my adult life that that's an out-of-body experience. That's the zone that you go into, or the steps into an out-of-body experience. And I would go somewhere and come back with information about the future and about things and about how to keep myself alive, considering all the crazy stuff that was going to be happening. I was already quite aware of it, and I had a lot of visions when I was a child, and that was just one of the ways that I accessed them. So magnetism is the feeling like a rock. I don't think I knew what a magnetic rock felt like at that point, but it was just a rock to me, like a really heavy black rock that was very solid, like a magnet. So when you feel a magnet, you can really feel your magnetism, and it's like this feeling of like feeling your pulse, like your heart is magnetic. So I've been really working with the feeling, returning to that feeling, remembering. I also told myself to remember ever since I was a child, and I actually forgot and went to dullness because no one understood me, and I was abused left and right, attacked, and brought down, stolen from, all these kind of things. So that's what happens to people when they have major PTSD. It's fight, flight, or fright, or freeze. And freeze is where the dullness is, and that's where people's bodies can't function the way they would love to. So I'm not exactly, stoked that I went into the dullness, but I feel like a lot of us have gone there because that's where humanity was as a group. We were all in this fear space, massive PTSD, attacking each other, and we didn't shake it off and return back into our magnetism. But now is that time to do that. And so also, I believe that this is a way to heal our bodies, stay young, become younger, rejuvenate. And there's a lot of technologies and innovations helping us even go there, including magnetic and electrocurrents and microcurrents and frequencies, and also just meditation and feeling your body within, because that's how you go into out-of-body experiences, which is interdimensional. So to talk about my own experience of magnetism and how I'm returning there after a lot of pain, physical, including being 2 inches shorter than I should be, like a crooked spine, and my organs being crushed, and so probably some brain injuries and all kinds of other things, like a lot of traumas. So I still believe and have a lot of hope for humanity, and I'm not willing to go into that dullness space anymore, of which also makes you numb to the reality that you're actually attacking someone else when you're talking about how terrible humanity is. So that's an energy that we must transmute inside of us. And that's where magnetism and fluorescence and resonance allows us to create that transmutational fire of the blocked energy of dullness or freneticism, which is like erratic and not centered, and not knowing where you're centering from, or how to breathe deeply into that and handle that energy. Like, I think dullness happens to a lot of people because they can't handle the freneticism physically. We don't have the bandwidth nor the way to actually to return to resonance. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of us, I think, have gone into this state of freneticism or dullness is we're and going through this to realize our magnetism, so we can help heal each other and heal ourselves. And I'm sorry, I keep on not talking about my magnetism, but so my magnetism is like I breathe in and look at my third eye, and I usually do it laying down because I can't sit up like a lot of people because of my back. And so that's why I'm laying down now. I'm not on the video. And so like breathe in, and there's many ways and techniques, but feeling your heart, number one, allowing the light to come in your heart, allowing your heart to open, allowing you to feel the love in your heart, the love in your body. Love is magnetic. It's a vortex that we create around our sphere, our auric body, or our golden egg. And that is a place when we're more clear. And so I'm really happy that I'm finally letting go of all that dullness and freneticism that I had. I was out of control in fear, and fear of society and people, and upset at what people were doing. And I can't do that anymore. I have to see the heart and magnetism in everyone, and see how I can call it through in the best way that I can. And the best way I can do that is by being in resonance and magnetic space within myself, which is a multidimensional experience that I'm calling myself forth from the future and from other parallel realities, and also my childhood. And now I'm still trying to explain what that feels like. The magneticism is like a breathing, like and like prior to undulating, prior to becoming a wave, it's like a settling into oneself, a surrender, and allowing the pains to really come into bliss. And then you start feeling like a rock or a magnet itself, and you feel kind of a wholeness in your body, like your energy is able to actually experience itself. And the way to stay calm in that is by breathing through it and letting it come through slowly, or going in these macro dimensional voyages. I will love to do this. I can't wait for that. I've been trying to say it from my point of view. I hope I said that, but this is a very deep space for me, and I really believe it's the healing of humanity, is the magneticism and resonance and fluorescence. So thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Denise. It's really fun to watch you because you've been in many meetings now, and your process. I noticed tonight something that's starting to come through when you describe your process. It's very powerful. And that's that thing we talked about in your human design, that is the voice that can mutate the collective. And so what I'm noticing is it's very powerful when you go in and you start to actually, instead of explain something, you actually describe what you're going through. And it's so easy when you do that to open up new places inside I'll just speak for everybody. If you're really paying attention, we're right there with you, experiencing the opening that you're opening. And so that is a beautiful thing. And I just want to mirror that to you, so that it can become something that you access more, because there's a very powerful gift there. And it's definitely in describing your moment, especially when you're opening into things like these gifts and the sitters and things. So that's a very enlivening and revealing thing. That's beautiful. Thank you. correct me if I'm wrong, but Lucy, I think you were about to go, and so if you would.
Hello, thank you. I'm back. I mean, I was listening. I was here the whole time, but I'm present. Yeah, I feel very different. It's been a very beautiful shift, really, from that shadow space, and I guess a level of judgment that maybe I was feeling, and I really do my best to be non-judgmental, but obviously I'm human, and it does come through sometimes. So, but majority of my judgment is on myself, and I'm just excited, I guess, to feel the magnetism and to embody it. And I kind of feel like all my cells, the cells in my body have shifted now, just into this more of like a, I don't know, I'm just kind of envisioning like a rose gold warmth kind of feeling that I'm bringing within and wanting to express as well. So it's like when you're talking about magnetism as well, what I'm kind of seeing is like a, you know, when you have the metal shavings and you have the magnet underneath, and sometimes if it's, I can't remember exactly how it works, but sometimes it's kind of like a weird kind of very dispersed, very strange kind of shapes, and then you move the magnet around and it kind of brings it all together, and you can kind of create these beautiful patterns, and the edges are still there. It's still the sharpness and still the edginess kind of to it, but you can create some really beautiful shapes and patterns, and it just kind of flows together. And that's the empty kind of spaces, I guess, that I can kind of see, just imagining it now. It's like that's where the energy flows, right? It kind of comes in and energizes us through those spaces. And I'm just feeling, I just think gratitude is the key to everything, isn't it? It's like, I'm just grateful for this moment. I'm grateful for being in this space with all of you, and letting go of judgment of myself and of the world, because it just is the way it is. I mean, it's an amazing time to be alive. It's an amazing time to be here and to be part of this shift. Like, yeah, I volunteered to be here for this change and to be helping catalyze ascension in whatever way, shape, or form that takes place. And just, yeah, I'm really happy to be part of this with all of you, and to be hearing your stories, and it helps me understand my story and my experience of this human life a lot more. I'd really, really love to hear and to be part of what you were talking about, the voyaging, Dimendra, with the and more aspects of the animal stuff. I'm really, spirit animal stuff is super exciting to me, and I really want to connect with that really, really deeply. I guess in terms of the dullness or the homogenization, I like that word as well. I've been researching, as you know, Dimendra, I asked you about Mary Magdalene the other day. I've been researching a lot about her, about that side of the biblical story, and the homogenization that's happened within the Christian church, which is what I grew up with, and how things were eliminated and left out for whatever reason, multiple reasons. But I feel like part of my calling in this time, and in this body at this time, is to help diversify and help, you know, that's what the world is doing anyway. We're coming into this age of more acceptance and tolerance and diversity, and really wanting to embody the divine feminine and bring that more into public consciousness as it is anyway, really that's a big part of my calling, is to help shift that. So yeah, I'm seeing that in the world, that the shift away from that homogenization, maybe contrary to what I said earlier, but I was in a shadow space. So yeah, I feel a diversification, and things are changing. We know that things are shifting so much. It's a painful process to go through, but I'm grateful, and just living in the ever-present eternal moment. And really, I think that's all we can really do, is be present, and just doing my best to observe objectively, as well as experiencing all the emotions of the human condition.
Wow, really well said. I almost named this gift diverse ability, based, and you just tapped into it, which made me very happy. That I love it when people pick up on the senses of it, which means the message is getting across, and that's really good. A couple other things you said about catalyzing the ascension process. Well, I felt that when you shared, you really brought in the sense of what it feels like, the difference between a shadow and a gift. You did it really well tonight. Your shadow was very shadowy, and then your gift was just whoosh. And that's good. Then I want to call that out so people watching later can mark that, note that point. And another thing that I coined today, even though it will be used, this term I'm going to say will be used in different scenarios in different ways, and already is being used in different scenarios in different ways, but specifically this process as a stage of other processes in which things like macro-dimensional voyaging will be a few steps later process. This particular process I want to coin the synergy accelerator. And if you can just get into the sense of a sizzling synergetic connectivity that's accelerating our consciousness, I just want to coin that term. That what is it we're actually doing in this meeting, because it's the synergy meditation meeting, right? Vegan synergy meditation meeting. We're doing a synergy accelerator. So that's what we're all participating in. We're accelerating out of the shadow, through the gift, and up into the sit-up. So I just want to throw that in because I may be using that term more often. And it's a little more user-friendly than accelerated collective evolution. That's a long term. Synergy accelerator, you need words and phrases that just roll off the tongue so people can easily repeat it. So I just want to offer that in as, and also just the way you alluded to it with the catalyzing ascension, same thing. Let's see, Nancy, would you like to share anything about the gift? And I only point you out because everybody else has already shared before we hop into the Siddha.
Right now, no. I still have my video off because I'm eating. Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. You can jump in later and do the gift and the Siddha. There's no order. And like Danya did, she came in with her shadow and then popped into the gift. And you can also go off theme if you want, but as long as you stay with shadow, gift, and Siddha, at least stay with that. But I mean, even if you go off theme and get into some personal stuff that may not necessarily have to do with the theme, that's okay too. The whole point is synergy accelerator. That's the emphasis. It doesn't have to have any more definition than that.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, cool. All right, so we're going to pop into the Siddha, and the way I'm going to go into it this time, instead of calling down the higher, invocation of presence, which I usually do when I say open space to the higher and ask for help from above, as I open the present moment to a time self-convergence with an intelligence, grander than my own. But I'm not going to do that tonight. Haha, I just did it. Just kidding. But what I'm going to do though is I'm realizing I got so much insight from everybody's sharing of the gift that it gave me a beautiful opening into the Siddha. So I'm going to kind of blend the higher Siddha space with a story that has to do with, that comes out of the electromagnetic training that happens in internal martial arts, which I did not realize until many years later, that we're training our etheric body to assume certain patterns and certain movement tracks that become habituated through our aura that eventually, because they are electromagnetic, they eventually draw to us all, and this is well known in deeper martial arts stories, that spirits would come and train people who were eventually going to become masters in martial arts. Lots of different spirits would come and train with them and test them in ways that no other fellow human could do, because they weren't limited to the physical form. So unknowingly, in doing things like Tai Chi and Bagua, which is based all on animals, it's a sequence of different animals, from the dragon to the hawk, to the eagle, to the monkey, to the tiger, to the eagle, to the unicorn, and to the chicken. And that, so it's literally, when you're doing internal martial arts, you're learning to do what I was talking about when you release the power of the animal and you start to learn to move with the frequencies of animal. But in Tai Chi, also step deeper and you move like clouds, and you move like the whirling of a galaxy, and et cetera, et cetera. And in the end, what you learn, what you get, is that you can create whirling forces with your body that literally act like a funnel to suction in any kind of consciousness field you want. And I didn't know, in all the years before I had my process where I awakened to the reality that's normally hidden behind the death experience, because I went through the death experience. So contrary to what some people think, you actually can die without having to leave your physical body. It is an actual thing that on an authentic frequency level can happen if you're going to go very deep into your awakening process in this lifetime. It's called a mystical death and rebirth. It doesn't mean I won't leave my body at some point, but you can actually go through what that process is like without, and then it opens you to the ability to move into siddhas. Really, it's the doorway into siddhas, is to go through mystical death and rebirth, if you want to be somebody who has the capacity to always tap into siddhas and have that door open. So anyway, back to my story. As I was moving in harmony and slowly learning how to move like clouds and like atoms and galaxies and trees and fish and water and fire and all, and those are all specific things you train in internal martial arts. I was learning that I was kind of like building the foundation for that macro-dimensional voyaging, so that when my consciousness flowered and I was able to go into multi-dimensional spaces, all of a sudden, all those patterns that I had trained into my aura were now, through the law of proportions, able to align with patterns on greater scales than the pattern I was training my body. And I could actually, instead of it being a movement, it became a consciousness field that pattern would induce, rather than the circulation of my blood and the flow of the pulse of my electromagnetic form through doing the movements. It now became an ability to tap into a consciousness form that could do that martial art move through space, using my whole form through my center, through lines of awareness that connect us to and we all have them, lines of awareness through our center that connect us. That's how the art of macro-dimensional voyaging is, right through this literal center of your body, with lines of colored filaments that you actually tap into, and a lot of people call emanations. And when you can actually start to tap into that stuff and align your intent with moving into certain consciousness intentions, you will actually literally do a voyage to get to, because you actually have to shift your space internally to get to the place where you can receive that consciousness information. And that's what voyaging is about, so that you can move from the sphere you're in now to a higher angelic. And I use angelic in a very broad term, because it's not just angels. There's other kinds of beings like angels that are even more profound, but not necessarily, because there are angels from the source also. But angels close to us are much more like us than angels from the source, put it like that. But you can start to tap into those consciousness fields and literally be taken into the spaces where those consciousness fields live. That's their abode. You can go into that abode, familiarize yourself with that abode, experience the incredible shifting of dimensional relationship to space, and the way things stretch out and line up, and the way things move without moving, and the way things flutter and shimmer that have intelligence, and it literally showers your body with knowing. these are, and this is a way I'm kind of going a little deeper than I have in meetings before, because I really want to paint a picture so you guys can start to try on what I'm saying, because it starts to give you a sense of what entering into Siddha space is like. And so that's my opening into the Siddha space tonight about fluorescence. And I specifically went into the actual fluorescence thing for a moment. The shimmering, that's one of the ways fluorescence intracts our vibrational field with wisdom. That's even a way of Siddha speak when I make up expressions the way I just did. But it's very clear what I said and everybody got it. So that's all. Anybody else like to hop into the fluorescence? And you can't do it wrong. Just whatever's there, know that we're all one right now in our beings, in our belly. We're all one being, just different facets of a higher form of intelligence. That's what moving into Siddha space means. We've transcended the physical, even though we're centered in our bodies, because that's the practice, to open a bigger space while remaining here. Instead of going out of the body, we go deeper into the body. Much deeper bodies that we have. And so we're all one there. So just trust that connectedness and go into it, and just, you can either describe what you're experiencing or share some wisdom that may come, or something may just come out you don't even know. I mean, it's even more trusting than the gift space. It's even more unknown. It's even more mysterious. And if you really get it, you're as much a witness of what you're saying as everybody else in space, because it's doing you.
Okay, I guess I'll go. Seems to be a bit of an order. It seems fluorescence is like a higher vibrational rate that's activated when you're connected to source. And you have nothing in between. Your mind is not really operating. You're in direct knowing, and you're like, the force is strong within you. You probably have the ability to sense things very acutely. You can sense other people very acutely. You can sense the field. You can sense the connection between everyone around you. You can send love. You can pulse love. And I think we have the ability to light each other up as we open our hearts and get into this space. I think it happens on the dance floor way easier. It happens with really good music way easier. It happens with certain medicines perhaps way easier. I think when there's a shared long-term vision that you trust in, that is shared with others, that it creates more trust. I think everything is so short-term. But I think if we have a longer-term approach and know we're going in the same direction, and know that we're protected. I think that people, when they go into the higher cities, you need gatekeepers, and you need people knowing what you're doing, and you need people who know you, because you might be running around naked on a beach somewhere, and you're just in your deepest joy, but to the regular world, they don't always like to allow that. So I think it would happen in a community. It would happen where everyone is focused on a spiritual intent. And I've experienced it to some degree, and when I have, I don't want anything else. And you can't kind of remember anything else.
Wow, that was really well tuned. I like good mirrors are good to have. So that's all I'll say with that. That was brilliant. And that is another example from another facet of a really a nice nice trick through Siddha space and open and how and some of the other possibilities that come from other individualities in relating to a space like that. And so much truth in everything you said, Elijah. So thank you. In relation to this Siddha. And remember too that anytime you step into a Siddha space, it's really weird because it feels like you're not going to make it or it's just not going to work. And that's literally the signal that you're moving into it. That's the weirdest thing about Siddhas. It totally disarms you. It totally unmasks you. So, and the other thing about Siddhas is too, is sometimes you got to pull from your future now space. What would it be like if I was fluorescent? And then and as you start to step into that description, you'll literally find yourself being pulled into the present moment of the experience. So just different little tactics to draw open your Siddha space, because sometimes I guess they might seem a little overawing or a little whatever, but they really aren't. Or everybody's just so deep in the wall right now that they're just sort of in a deep stillness, which is also a Siddha, so that's okay too. But I do encourage active participation and sharing so we can all be graced by everybody's pouring of wisdom into the space.
Hey, this is Aurora, and it's like the fluorescence is like every single bit of your body is made of particles of light swimming around and undulating, dancing with each other, and having poles that align to certain movements and animation within. And so when you feel and when I feel and see my body like that, I am able to see what doesn't fit in the sea of the harmony and the resonance within of all the lights moving in coherence with each other. And so, yeah, it feels like particles and waves departiculating the form as we know it. It feels like the subatomic level awareness of embodiment, and then also the awareness of the subatomic interweaving connections with each other, and how we relate on that frequency level of feeling each other, like really feeling, like not just emotions, but all of it, the whole complexity, and then bringing that percolation of energy into awareness mode, that of the realm of awareness that we're in now. So right now it's seems like another world, but it's really a world that lives parallel. And as I become more aware of this parallel world within me, I realize how to transmute the blocks and the pains and the energies that do not serve me, and how not to engage and not be attached to the upsetness I might have had with people for what they had done to me or others, and instead resonating on my own internal affairs. And when that almost like stab or shot of another realm or diversity that is painful, I can more feel and understand the pain of another and transmute it through my vehicle as a conduit of light that just kind of eats the pain of theirs through my conduit. That's what I'm coming to at this point. I used to hold on to other people's pain or my upsetness, that they were even like that. I couldn't believe it. So that was where the dullness came in, because I couldn't become myself. So myself is more this, almost flying resonant being that feels the dance of the particles within, and the waves and the movements, and then the coherent and harmonic imbalance person of that is where all the worlds of within me, all the spaces within me, all the atoms spinning, and the protons, photons, the quarks, and they're spinning in ways that are in resonant with the feelings that I'm choosing to experience, such as bliss, love, joy, and these are actual states of being that can be felt from the awareness, open eyes, connecting with another, to closing eyes and being in another realm, which is almost like the inner space realm, but also connecting to the outer space realm, and how that weaves with all time, and how it we're actually star beings. So the experience of being a star being is always with me, this of being a sun, of the rays of light always splaying. And so drinking in the sun energy helps me remember that kind of transmutative but still alive form of light that I am, in its orchestrated organization of sacred geometric harmony and bliss and resonance within. That's a little bit of a mouthful, but when our sacred geometries interweave with each other in a resonant, coherent field, then we're creating peace within our relations. It's so peace on all. So the more that we become harmonic and resonant within, the more we can relate with that with others, the more it expands the entire world. And I believe we will have less of what's going on right now. And it is my hope that we can help people come into this space of peace and love, no matter what's happened to them. You hear about Holocaust people who really had intense times, almost died, running, coming into this super peaceful place because they had to let go of their PTSD. So a lot of us are having had to deal with PTSD on different levels, and coming back into that harmonic, peaceful place globally is our evolution, in my opinion. But also, it's the only place I can go after all the pain that I had. I no longer want to hold it. I no longer need to. And coming into more peaceful, resonant spaces with all my relations is what's occurring too. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Denise. Some beautiful stuff there. A couple things I want to say. First is that this particular life code is part of what's called the vessel of love. And there are 4 in the wheel, the mandala of the 64 life codes. There's 4 that are the Sphinx, which is future, past, present, and the driver. And then there's 4 that have to do with the vessel of love, that are between those 4 directionals. And it's universal love, love of the body, love of the self, and love of humanity. And this one is love of humanity. And you hit on a very deep key, Denise, in this particular code, which is love of humanity. You can literally heal all the collective wounding through fluorescence. And that's exactly what you were describing and experiencing and tapping into. And for myself, it was really beautiful because it allowed me to take the dullness, that encasing deadness around the heart, and literally interweave the fluorescent munificence in its vibrational, scintillating, pulsatingness right through the center of the heart, and literally right through that dullness. And just because I wanted to test what I was picking up intuitively, not only from what you were saying, but the key itself was opening the citic space of healing the collective unconscious in terms of the wounding we received and the capacity to heal it. So I just want to call that out right now in the space that Siddhas also are magical healing balms too, at a very profound level. That because each siddha is unique. Again and again, I always say it's not just about flying and going high, and it's not just the peace and the bliss and the love, although those are really cool, and they're really the stanchions upon which all the rest of it is arrayed. But there's like deep healing, and sometimes there's deep power or deep shifts or deep work or deep other qualities that the siddhas will bring out. It's every dimension of our humanness, as it eventually will be as we become a universal being. So we're training our future universal being self when we tap into siddha space. Also, it's good to remember that. But also from the siddha space is the only space you can actually go back in and heal collective wounding that actually you can't even see yet. When you're in full gift space and you're actually sharing your genius, there's still collective unconscious wounding there that doesn't get released until you move into the siddha space. In fact, to move into the siddha space is to heal. And I mean for any gene key, life code, human design gate, any shadow collectively, on the collective level, which still exists at the gift level. So remember that it's only the individual shadow that we're working with at the so-called shadow level. When we move to the gift, we still have to heal the collective shadow when we move to the siddha. So you're literally healing some part of the collective shadow when you move to the siddha, because then you're in your universal self. So those steps are important too: shadow, individual, collective, gift, and universal siddha. So because the platform Denise opened was very profound in terms of the love of humanity and the ability to step fully into what that really means at the siddha level through fluorescence. It literally creates, it's almost like Mother Nature with all her infinite green branches reaches right through your heart and loves that stone of dullness. And it's not like anything changes, but there's just all that love there now. And I'll just leave that as a mystical little key to meditate on, because I could go into that and unravel it, but I'm not going to, because I think it'd be more fun. You don't want to answer everything. You want to leave a lot of mystery in stuff like this. Okay, I'm going.
Yeah, that's all right. I'll go if nobody else is ready. Something that I have started doing, and it really brings me a lot of clarity and excitement, is really envisioning the angel wings that we all have. We're all these light beings, as you say, Denise, star beings that we can, I guess through this space, this kind of thing, we can, and all the time, step into that embodiment of that angelic self. And the way I envision my wings is the fluorescence, is that how you say it, or phosphorescence? Fluorescence. I'm not sure what the difference is exactly, but
Fluorescence is a flowering, like nature when it bursts into springtime. Fluorescence. Phosphorescence is that glow from a glow in the dark, whatever. So it's the phosphorescence is more local and more intense. The fluorescence is just wow.
Right. I guess it's both then. I probably had in my mind more the phosphorescence. When you see butterflies that have like the beautiful bright glowing purples and greens and blues, like those kind of colors, that's how I've been envisioning my wings, and that's how I want to really step into that angelic self, is with those colors and the phosphorescence. But again,
if you were in a cloud of those butterflies, then you would have fluorescence.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, there we go, exactly. And I guess it is through this process of learning how to do that and learning more of this stuff is a fluorescence, is flowering into that, stepping into more of that next phase of my existence, I guess. And I like to imagine the whole world doing that, and being in a cloud of butterflies is such a beautiful way to imagine it happening. So that's been super helpful for me over the last few days anyway, just feeling that opening of the heart space as well, because as we feel that and imagine it, you know, they're coming from our back through those back muscles, that sort of opens up that heart space and opens up our heart and makes our heart beat even more strongly and more powerfully, and just create so much more space within to have that flow and to be that channel and express whatever the higher self or the oversoul wants to really express. And it's kind of like the tree, as you mentioned as well. I like the envisioning of the tree meditation. I like doing that myself as well as embodying it and feeling the roots going down into the earth and connecting with Mother Earth, but then the branches and the leaves and the flowers and everything coming up as well, and connecting with the sky and all the other elements. And it's kind of like this, the elongating or the expansion within, kind of coming from that central space. And I really feel a strong connection with my solar plexus, but I'm connecting so much more now with my heart space and dropping into that, and really consciously dropping into that and just being in that present moment in my heart, and just feeling and expressing that love. And I feel that from my experience over the last few days of working with the angel wing kind of activation thing, really it's just a beautiful opening, expanding, consciousness raising little exercise. And I guess it's available to us all the time. So I'm doing my best to remember that, to have them there, and to have those muscles kind of opening up and just being in that heart space. So I might want to share a little bit more in a minute, but that's for me for now.
Are you aware that angel wings is the mudra of your life's work and my life's work, the seventh gene key? Did you know that? This is the mudra.
Ah, really?
It's called angel wings, and you kept saying it. It's blowing my mind. And you're like, you're calling your own. This is the mudra for the siddha of angel of the seventh gene key. The night of the one meeting I didn't have, so I never got to go into the seventh life code. That was the one night when right after my stepdaughter's fiance left, died from COVID, and so that week didn't happen. But this is it. This is it's like this. It's right across your chest. Like, this is angel wings. It's the siddha of the seventh gene key, which is virtue. It's called angel wings, just like this.
Oh, that's the mudra. Okay.
Yeah, that's the mudra. So you were nailing that. See, I love it when we get into siddhas, because the things that come out are the truth. It's just amazing. Anyway, so thank you.
Thank you.
I'll go. So it was taking me a little bit for me to wrap my head around this idea of fluorescence. But when you talked about all these, like the butterflies and springtime, that really brought it into focus for me. And because for me, what that feels like is like going out in the world and feeling like like life and just like creation is blooming. And in those moments, it's like there's always something like drawing me in or sticking out. Yeah, and it's just like, yeah, I feel like the idea of things blooming, for me, that's how it feels. It's just like everything has this clear light on it, where it's like revealing itself constantly all the time, and there's like a flurry of motion that's like captivating. Thank you.
Yeah, what I even though Lucy started about butterflies, that's a really good and you kind of brought it in a little bit more there. Yeah, butterfly. If you can think of a you know, a flurry of butterflies and the kind of spirals within spirals that they're doing, that's a really good visual of how it actually how fluorescence actually feels through your aura, but on a much bigger scale and with a lot more dimensional transitional shifting is the only way I could say that. It's hard to describe, but definitely, and also in continue simultaneously in several different axes of things moving through you, so that you become like the center of an aurora kind of phenomena, a multidimensional aurora of spiraling butterfly, scintillating, you know, luminous, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, anyway, since we're getting descriptive, thank you, Evan.
So I'll go next. I just wanted to share that it's really interesting for me. The Sitta space tonight is very different for me than everybody else on the call. I find my Sitta space, and I was just sharing with Adriana, I feel, and it's probably has a lot to do with my shadow that I dropped in the gift and what I'm personally going through in the Sitta space. I feel like my body has dropped away. It's almost paralyzed. It's unmovable. My head is the only thing that I can move around. I'm using my third eye. It's the only thing that I see. It feels so light, so free, so much movement, um, so so alive. You know, it feels very invigorated, like a cold wind brushing on my face constantly. It's very calming and soothing, and it's very freeing. And when I physically open my eyes, I find I'm feel like I'm looking down at everything, and it's just it feels like a sense of nothingness to me. It's really quite amazing, and um, it's really quite amazing. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to share that. It feels really good. It feels like it's a new experience, and I know that you and I have worked for many years together, and I'm familiar with this space, and this is the first time where I felt so disconnected and connected at the same time. So it was really great. Thank you.
Thank you, Danya. So that's just another thing to realize when you open a Siddha space, it can have different facets of it, meaning the individual who's giving their specific angle of its expression can bring out a really unusual and unique qualities. And when Danya was speaking, I was getting the sense of, I always go back to the Wizard of Oz when all the flowers are blooming, as they're heading into Ozland. And it's just, wow, and the music comes up and everything. And what Danya's describing is the still presence of this luminous bursting life. But it's still, but it's so full of pure aliveness and bursting, juicy you know, openingness. It's like you get the sense of pure movement, but through pure stillness. So that aspect, that is, I guess, the very essence of the living life force itself that brings everything to life, that comes from such a deep stillness. So I just wanted to point out that when you go, and that's why every time you go into a Siddha space, even if you go through the same Siddha over and over, it's always going to be new. It's never going to be the same twice. So that's a really beautiful thing about another quality of Siddha space that's really cool. I'm done. And thank you, Don. Well, I think, was that everybody, or Nancy? Do you now wish to share anything? Because I guess
Uh,
we're there.
yeah, I'm feeling kind of particularly out of sync right now. And I was flashing on times when I was really, really young, like a kid, and earlier, even into my teens and early 20s, when I had some of these experiences and then got older and I guess more crusty. But I'm feeling kind of particularly out of sync right now. I'm not sure why. I didn't get enough sleep last night. That might have something to do with it.
Even so, you're still. I can feel deep in your belly, your lower belly, that you're tapped into the threads, the lines of awareness that connect you to the emanation of fluorescence. So even if you feel out of sync or whatever it is you're saying, I don't know if you use the word feel or you just said I'm out of sync, there's still, because we're all one here, you're still tapped into it. So if you move down into that space and just kind of followed it a bit, um, at least maybe you could sense the sync that is connecting you to all of us and to the source of all fluorescence right now, because you are definitely connected. I sensed right into that. But your mind, you might be busy. Your mind might be somewhere else. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Um, I heard you say that someone in your family died from COVID.
I don't want to go there now because it's
Oh,
not in harmony with what we're saying. But we're going to be done in a sec. I'm gonna wrap it now, and then we can spend a couple of minutes, not a whole long, because I get up at 3:30 in the morning, so I don't want to stay too much longer.
wow.
After yeah, I do workout, walk the dog, do all kinds of stuff before I start my day at 6:30 every day. But let me see. Elijah, I invite you to take us on a little couple of minute journey, if you feel like it, to close the space. Everybody else has already done that at least once in these meetings, to kind of synthesize and wrap it all up. If you're still there, yes, there you are.
Yeah.
Just take us on a little journey for a couple of minutes, like I did when I opened it. You can do to
Like
close
like
it.
a guided meditation kind of thing.
Yeah, just to kind of wrap it all up, synthesize it, integrate it, and allow us to metabolize it.
Okay. Okay. If everyone takes a big deep breath, close your eyes. And send a green energy to the center of the earth through your feet. Let any of the remaining shadow to come out and ask for Mother Earth for healing. Take another deep breath. Breathe out. And then feel the torch going around the whole planet and come into your crown. Bring in blue energy. Breathe it through. Breathe it through your feet. Breathe it through all the way to the Sakura. And breathe it back around into the top. And then breathe it down and create a circuit. Just feel the energy moving through you. Ask for individual healing and group healing and species level healing. Keep on bringing it through. Send light and love to everyone in the group. We give gratitude for all our spiritual guides and all the masters that are helping us right now. We thank Mother Earth and Father Sun for all the gifts that we receive. We ask to be open to the gifts in the cities, and we ask to heal the shadow in ourselves and our collective and our species in this particular gene key. We give thanks for Dharmanendra for teaching this to us and sharing this with us from the good of his heart for the pure soul. We give thanks for everyone in the group for opening your heart and sharing your shadow and to accept your gift and to participate in the presence of the city. And we ask that the teaching and lesson resides within us and stays with us and activates us and brings us into the higher states in an easy and gentle way and balances our life in an easy and gentle way. And one last big breath. And maybe one Om, if you can just kind of open up and There you go.
Perfect.